thank you all for coming out this afternoon here at the Blanden Art Museum. So it's really great to have so many people here, not only to support the museum, but to support our visiting artist, Colin Smith here. Just kind of a reminder too, to stay up, to stay updated on events and programming that we offer here at the museum. It's really best to, one, follow us on Facebook. We put a lot of things on Facebook. But two, also think about becoming a museum member. All members, they get mailed our quarterly publication that we produce that has all the art classes that we have for the quarter. It has all the upcoming exhibits and any events that we're going to host, usually in there. Sometimes we spring on special events, and for those you really want to kind of keep track of, like Facebook, and get notification that way. So being a member, not only provides you with the information that you need for everything that goes on here at the museum, but it also helps support the museum in a lot of different ways. And so if you're not a member, think about becoming a member. Today we can set you up with a pamphlet to take home with you. So just talk to me or Doug Brightman, the gentleman with the blue sweater, or Angela. She's kind of around here too. So any one of us can help you get that. And you can find information online as well. We've at blanden.org. So it's a great pleasure that I introduced the artist Colin Smith and his wonderful exhibit, Soft Geometry here, which is actually in memory of Richard Black, a professor of Colin's. And a colleague of a lot of another individual here, and teachers of at least one other individual in the crowd, and someone that I miss having interactions with, because if you didn't know Richard, he was a very interesting individual, and he always spoke his mind and wasn't worried about it. Yeah. So Colin Smith is an accomplished artist and esteemed instructor of art and art history at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. He earned his BFA in painting from the University of Nebraska, Omaha. And then he further he pursued his artistic journey with a Master's of Fine Arts degree in printmaking from Drake University. During his time at Drake, Colin had the privilege of collaborating with the renowned artist and professor Richard Black, whose influence left an incredible mark on Colin's creative endeavors. Therefore, it's fitting that this exhibit is dedicated to Mr. Black's memory. And I'm going to practice it. Kazimir Malevich, right? Adaptly stated, a painting surface is a real living form. I believe Colin's paintings are an exemplification of this sentiment. His work pulsates with the texture and color, crafted from humble industrial materials that he transforms into captivating expressions of artistic mastery. While his pieces bear visual resemblance to minimalism and hard edge painting that stemming from the abstract expressionism and colorful movements of American art, they also invoke a sense of familiarity and accessibility reminiscent of farm folks that are scattered throughout the Midwest. Despite his apparent simplicity, Colin's work beckons viewers into a dialogue about surface, color, composition, and the essence of painting. Soft geometry represents a harmonious fusion of materials, striking compositions, and a rich exploration of color, texture that transcends traditional boundaries. I invite you all to engage with Colin's work as I invite you all, as I will bring up Colin here in a little bit, to bombard him with questions, yeah, that's pretty much all I have. So thank you again. I'll turn it over to Colin here for questions and answers. So, Colin Smith. So
questions? I'm done?
I told you to bombard them with them.
Yeah. My students do that. I ask them, any questions? They, no. It's like, okay, class is over. Then they line up and ask questions.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
Colin. So can you explain how you stumbled upon the materials that you chose to use? And maybe give a little bit of a clarification on exactly what the material is, because I have some individuals that say it's one thing and I have to correct them that it's another thing based on what you stated. So if you can kind of explain that.
Okay, so I was an antique dealer for a while and doing antique restoration, and I still like finding stuff. My daughter and I found a stickly rocker the other day. Fun find. I had a chair in my studio, knocked apart to re-glue, clamps out, grab my glue, which is Gorilla Glue. Everyone know Gorilla Glue? Okay. Walking by my palette, which is a bunch of squirt bottles full of paint. I don't know why, my beer might have been involved in the decision, but I grabbed a bottle, I don't even know what color it was, some color, and I squirted it in a little salsa cup, the little plastic 2-ounce cups, and mixed it up. I don't know why I did it. Called happy accident, right? In art, happy accident. Mixed it up with my palette knife. I wasn't going to glue the chair with that batch, but the cups started getting hot and foaming up. So I had to drop it. So that decision of mixing that water-based pigment in with that Gorilla Glue was the genesis of a whole bunch of stuff. And if you looked at my website, you can see different bodies of work. And at someplace in here, it talks about my evolution from a body called gunk, which was basically color field painting made with the same material, but I would drip, drip, drip over and over and over again this gunk off of a chopstick onto the surface. So thousands and thousands of drips to make, like I have a painting in my studio that is 5 feet high by 9 feet long. So thousands and thousands of drips to make a minimal painting, right? That's not minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that sort of paradox. I've always liked that sort of paradox of meaning.
So are these paintings made with the same material then, with the kind of a
same material,
or is it a more specialized resin that you're using?
Back when I first started it, there were about 3 different polyurethane glues, and I was experimenting with all of them. Mm-hmm. Seems like Gorilla Glue overtook all the others. Mm-hmm. Companies, and they stopped making them. Only Gorilla Glue that I know of exists now. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So a couple of these, you can see the transitions from, if you look on the website, look under gunk, you'll see those color field paintings. Some of these in here were those. And I got inspired to start putting some forms in them, like in the 2 corner walls, and this piece in that corner. So I got razor knife out and started cutting into them. I still do construction paper to do colored construction paper to do the compositions before they're cut. Yeah, so like with the black and white shapes there, construction were cut and pinned on there and then cut out and then chiseled out with a wood chip and then painted back in. Yeah. And then it started forming actual premeditated compositions, maybe like this is one of the first ones in here. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Question here.
Okay.
How long do most of your pieces take? Like just an average time frame?
Depends on size, of course.
Yeah.
That little one in the middle is the freshest one, and you can ask my family how long that took. a long time. I said, I gotta go work on that thing. I gotta go to my studio. So, yeah.
Is it
So,
on-
one more time. So these are made, when I mix that up, because it's so volatile and crazy to deal with, palette knife, you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, palette knife in one of those little 1 or 2 ounce plastic cups, and then put that amount in randomly after I have my drawing down first, right? So it just gets built up, built up, built up. Oh, it's
That's cool.
labor intensive over and over and over. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you mix the color first before you apply it, or do you apply the color after you put
The color is internal. The color is mixed with the glue.
And you said it's reactive or volatile?
It's a chemical reaction.
How do you
Control.
manage that and keep yourself safe?
It's very focused. Yeah. Someone else?
Is it on wood or what's the base?
Yeah. If you look in here on the website, there's another group, another body of paintings called Superflat. They're really graphic in nature from my printmaking influence. They're done on aluminum panel from sign making industry. More recently, I've just been grabbing whatever I find and paint on it. Like all of these back here done on polycarbonate, which is greenhouse plastic. Super light, super stable. I just glue aluminum cleat on the back, as Eric knows, to hang them with.
I prefer those
Waterproof,
versus the other ways.
So they're lighter.
No,
They're
light.
lighter in weight
Mhm.
than.
light in weight, very light, yeah. Yeah.
Well, for an example, like the ones in the corners, these kind of pill-shaped ones, they're being held up with Velcro. I mean, that's
wow.
all that's.
Yeah, I was
really
hanging them with
important.
Velcro for a while. As I did a show at Drake a few years back that Rob Craig here organized, and all of that group was stuck up with Velcro, big patches of Velcro. So
You said you use a water-based paint, like, are you talking, what kind of water-based paint, in an Allen?
it's waterborne. It's high-tech paint I get from Lower East Side, New York. The paint, it's pure pigment. I mix something. So there's a chemical company that does industrial stuff in New Jersey called Hood Manufacturing. I get water-based polyurethane from them. Unlike oil-based polyurethane, it will not yellow. So another thing I did when I was in graduate school, I had been printmaking, right? So chemicals like crazy. Also, I painted houses all through college, chemicals, paint thinner, mineral spirits, all kinds of chemicals. So at one point I decided to start finding non-toxic things. Like Richard always had a bottle in the print shop called Pink Death, and there was skull and crossbones on it. I didn't want to mess with that kind of stuff anymore. So I started doing water-based monotypes, and then water-based paintings, no more oil, no more oily rags to catch fire in the studio. So water-based, safety, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm standing here and I see that piece, and then I see Hans Hopkins in the West Gallery. And the yellow, of course, my eye goes right to the yellow. And so when you plan something, how do you plan color, and what do you hope people view first when it comes to color?
So Hans Hopkins was a teacher also. You all know his work. He taught in color theory, his color theory classes. He taught some color temperature, and I use it with my students all the time. It's called push-pull. So there's warm colors and there's cold colors. And that yellow's coming at you, right?
Okay, right.
Yeah. And the blue's receding and the black's receding, right?
Yeah.
So that makes space, right? That was Hans Hopkins' push-pull. So if you go to, and I had the luxury of doing this once with my wife, go to University Cal Berkeley, there's a whole gallery of his paintings of the more geometric shapes that exemplify that push-pull theory a lot. So if you get to Berkeley, go see that.
Okay. The other question I have is, as I helped Eric put up the exhibit, the perfect lines. How do you go about creating those shapes?
Yeah. Because this stuff is really crazy.
Right.
Like I think somewhere in here where Eric said like controlling chaos, right? And
Right.
it's very akin to that. These two paintings were made for an exhibition at the International Quilt Museum in Lincoln, Nebraska. And it got cut short a little bit from COVID. And I was going to get them, and the director there asked me the same question as you did. It's just being really, really careful with that palette knife. And so there's an underdrawing there, right?
Right.
Yeah, like a minimal painting.
So you just control those straight lines? You didn't use anything to,
So this stuff grows, right?
Yeah.
When I put it down, it grows.
right?
So I have to calculate that.
The-
Sometimes if it grows too much, I'll cut it out with a razor
Okay.
knife and redo it, but I
So
don't-
you're
I
doing
don't wanna
all
do
those
that.
lines,
Yeah,
all those lines freehand?
yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Robert?
So the origins of your abstractions sometimes are revealed through some of your titles. Could you talk a little bit about your sources?
Of titling?
No, of the imagery. So the origins of your abstractions.
Like influences?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Classic hard edge painting.
I mean, it looks like. But what you're looking. What are your origins that the abstractions are from? I mean,
Okay, so.
I know a few. and I could
Right.
guess
One thing I
if you
started
want to.
working on in graduate school, part of it was from being at Des Moines Art Center and seeing newly acquired Agnes Martin painting that I would go weekly to play with, right? And I'd always loved Jackson Pollock's paintings and action painting and abstract expressionism. So I started doing these images that were mixed, that things weren't supposed to be together, like paradoxical things, right? So there's the tension of that. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, to some degree, but you seem to be influenced by jazz. You seem to be.
True.
As you look at these pieces, you can't help but think about textile design.
Okay.
So there's,
So at the International Quilt Museum, right?
mhm.
I made these for that exhibition, curated exhibition by somebody. So my homework on these had to do something with quilts.
Okay.
So the co-curator happened to know another curator at a California museum that had done this exhibition, and there was a visual artist that had quilts made of their imagery. So these two paintings are actually appropriated geometry from that California artist that made quilt that I changed the palette on, and somewhat the composition. So, and I think Eric brought up barn paintings, is that what they're called? Yeah.
I think they're barn quilt paintings or
Okay.
barn quilts or something
Yeah.
like that. Typically they're on plywood and hung on barns.
Yeah, and then there's a cousin or something of this one in my studio, which was inspired simply by some wrapping paper, the checkerboard pattern, right? Sort of eye dazzler type of patterning. So a lot of it has to do with it's formal and human responsive with our retinas, color. Yeah. So just playing with different geometry. See.
Well, even with the, like, you bring up like, color as being a main subject within some of these paintings, and these two little ones, you can see that directly where they seem very kind of like color inspired, the contrasting colors and how they kind of communicate with each other. Even within those, like it seems like you're playing with color, playing off each other, but even like those two kind of mess with me because they're not perfectly symmetrical either, so my eyes are going, I don't even know what to look at.
None of these are totally symmetrical.
Yeah, but those you can kind of like there's almost symmetrical, but then they just kind of fall apart. The question I have though is that the one in the center there, I know it's the newest work. It seems drastically different than some of these other ones. What is your thinking on direction of the next series of paintings, and what is that looking like? for you?
More of that, I have a panel built for that one to be 4 feet by 7 feet.
Okay,
Yeah, to see what that scale does.
yeah.
Yeah.
More of that kind of all over color
And then, yeah.
with like
then
something
and
solid.
then a
in it.
neutral shape yeah, floating in there, So my wife, going back to those two on each side, she brought up with me that those were the only two untitled ones in here.
Oh, yeah, they are.
And she said, why? And I said, they're color studies.
Yeah.
So
And they seem to like.
maybe for
color
big,
studies, yeah.
larger ones. So.
Here's a question here.
So throughout this kind of talk, you kind of referred to these as paintings. Would you kind of consider them as paintings or add kind of some of the sculpture element with that? Where do you kind of draw the line between that and sculpture?
Yes.
As well as would you ever consider using this media like in the round as sculpture?
If you look on my website, you'll see sculpture. Yeah. I was first a sculpture major. Also, I've talked about paradox before, earlier today, so that's part of the question of their sculptural paintings. Or there's a New Mexico artist I loved in graduate school. I still love his work, named Stuart Ahrens, if you know who that is. That was questioning, are these paintings surface painted or are they sculpture? So, yeah.
Well, I think just that dialogue between the questioning of, is this a painting or is it a sculpture, like a low relief sculpture, or, exactly what it is, I think is really, really great. I had a group here this morning, and one of the individuals was talking about how he got kind of rejected from an exhibit, and his paintings, he's creating a whole series of what he calls painted illustrations about his life story. And they said that, he said that the gallery had reached out to him and says, we didn't select your pieces because they didn't fit, as illustrations, they didn't work. And our conversation this morning was about, I think they're just too dependent on the boundaries of what an illustration is, and not open to the idea that it could be a painting and an illustration, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I think that's the thing that I appreciate a lot about this, because it can be both, and it can be both a painting and kind of a sculptural element. So just an extra note on your note. So, do we have any other questions?
I don't know how to word it, but they want, it's like they want to be touched.
They're waterproof, that's fine. A lot of them have gone through a flood, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like 8.5 million gallons of water on the building in Omaha, yeah.
Some of the colors, parts of the pieces look matte and some look more shiny. Was that on purpose? Or so how did you achieve it?
It depends on how much glue is in it. My daughter asked me the same question about the one, the one to the right of it. Yeah, she said sometimes there are different blues in there.
Yeah.
And that just depends on the saturation, the amount of pigment going into the glue cup. Okay.
Like the black looks really matte, but the blue over there looks so shiny.
There was a time where it was messing, the one in the corner messing with putting matte medium on them because I didn't like them shiny, and then I like them shiny, so I go buy a gallon of shiny polyurethane and put it back on them. Most of them are just they are what they are. It's like that, the gloss of the mixture.
Now, as a museum person who's interested in preserving things long-term, are you concerned with the longevity of the material? I know that it's always kind of a thing within the museum where it's like, you know, how do we conserve something like this, and how long is it going to last? And so, do you have a clue, or are you concerned with those aspects?
Some of these parts are from like 2010, nothing's happened.
Okay.
When I first started doing it, I did some experiments on I was putting this stuff on found ceramic vases and stuff, and making like hippie candle things where drip, 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 drip. And I put some of those outside for a whole summer, for 4 months, 5 months, nothing changed. So, I think that depends on the quality of the pigment that I put in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions for Colin?
So I'm going to be here for a little bit. If you want to look at the website and that spurs any other questions, just come find me, okay? Like if you looked at the Gunk series, you'll know what I'm talking about, those color field paintings that aren't here that this turned into. So that'd be a visual connector for you, okay?
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, let's give Colin a round of applause. And I just want to mention again, thank you for coming. We post all of our artist talks on our YouTube channel, so this one will be up probably next week. It takes a little bit of time for me to upload it and then edit it and then have it on our YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, you just go to YouTube, you type in Blanden Art Museum, you pull it up, and we have a whole bunch of different videos that we've produced really since COVID. We started really producing some videos for the museum. So again, I'm sure we have plenty to eat. Please eat as much as possible, because otherwise we have to take it home with us. And I really appreciate you all coming out. And Colin, thank you again for spending the day with us and then letting us enjoy your amazing work. So thank you very much.